Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10. You are here with JP, Caleb, and Keaton. We got the two draft gurus on right now, and we are going to talk about the draft, the last day before the draft, all the crazy shit that's going on right now, talk and stuff and things, and it's funny to see everything that pops up on Twitter and other social media sites on a daily basis. But that's what we're going to go over, and maybe some NFL trade stuff that may happen prior to the draft. We'll just have to see. We never know what Veach is going to do from 1 second to the next. He's got a plan, that's for sure. But how you guys doing?
Pretty good, man.
Good. So we put out your top 50 that you guys have, your top 50 mock draft. We've had some interesting comments, to say the least. But that's okay, because these are mock drafts, people. Everybody understand that these are mocks, and even though Kale has been extremely accurate with a lot of things that he's done, these are mocks. I mean, half the guys if you look at like a Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, and anybody else that does mock drafts during the season, especially David Carr's, they usually hit on about maybe 2 to 3 players. They've never been accurate, and that's why if you look at Daniel Jeremiah, he changes his every 3 days. Why does he do that?
1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I mean,
Exactly.
those happen because it's a mock draft. Different things sway different opinions every single day.
They want to be right on who they get.
Well, that's it. I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, if they change it every 3 days, he can go back to any one of those at any period and say, "Look, I was right. Look, I was right," and he could do it on every draft board until he hit everybody in the draft. But this is a mock draft, and these guys put a ton of work into studying the players and looking at what our needs are. So be a little bit respectful to what the effort they put into this, if you don't mind me asking. I know everybody has an opinion, but some comments can be fairly rude, and that's just no point in that. But regardless, what do you guys? Okay, I have an opinion.
Okay.
And I want to know your guys' opinion on this, but I have a thought, I guess I should say, more than an opinion. And I've actually talked to a friend of mine today that was an agent, and he actually had the same kind of thought I did. So on Jameson, I have a feeling that he's going to drop to the low 2s. Maybe even after talking to this agent friend of mine that has a lot of players in the league. He said, I think you're right. He said, I have a feeling he's going to drop from what he's heard. He said he may even go to maybe the mid 2s. He said it may even get that high. And he said it wouldn't be unheard of. He said, given the fact that we've watched players that were supposed to be going in the first round and up in the third round, you're talking about a guy that had an injury that may not play till week 8, week 9, and can't start practicing for a pretty good amount of time. So he said, what good's he going to do a team that really needs a wide receiver right now, like is in desperate need of a wide receiver if they're in the win now mode? And I said, that's my only thought processes on it too. I said, if we went for him, this is not a kid that we're going to be putting out, usually on the first season anyway. So, and he said, that's not something you guys really do. You don't have day one starter wide receivers normally, because it's really, you got a difficult system, and Andy's playbook is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's when you look at what we've done over the years with Andy, I don't remember a wide receiver that came out and just was instant impact in the wide receiver position, not even Tyreek Hill. So what do you guys think? I mean, what's your opinion?
I have a little bit of opinion on this. I think with the injury, I think it's important to look at the extended season and what teams are going to be, looking at. I mean, at week 8 in the season, that's not even halfway through the season. If he was able to come into a team even that needed a wide receiver early in the year, I think teams are willing to wait, maybe even more so if they're in the rebuild mode, compared to teams maybe win now scenarios. But I think if you were going to say, you know, if the Chiefs wanted to move up and they really value Jameson Williams, I don't think they let him slip past, 18, 19, 20. I think they go get their guy if that's really who it is. And I know they had interest in him because they brought him in. And I don't think he's going to fall, especially just because I've heard from a lot of different people that he's a lot of GM's wide receiver one, even over Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot that could very well be true. I just know that if these guys are, like if you look at like Minnesota, they're going to be in rebuild mode probably next year. So, it wouldn't be a surprise if somebody jumped up to grab, even like what your guys' draft has, and we trade off either 2 firsts or even move it around a little bit and say we trade 1 first this year, a first and a second next year for I can't think of his name right now.
Garrett Wilson.
That's it's not a unheard of thing. I mean, it's not something that couldn't happen. Veach has done things before that he really wants a player, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's gonna happen, doesn't mean it won't happen, but it's not crazy. It's not a crazy scenario. I should put it that way. I don't know. I mean, Caleb, what do you think? I mean, what do you think is going to happen with Jameson?
So, Jameson, the way you look at the draft, honestly, like when we were doing our mock draft, it could be all wrong or it could be alive and right. Because with the draft, anything is possible.
Yeah.
JP, I know you remember this. Whenever Mitchell Trubisky, there was 1 year, and there was like 5 quarterbacks that went in the first round, and it wasn't supposed to be a quarterback-heavy draft.
Yeah.
It was a year Christian Ponder went.
Yeah.
There was a couple others, but you had Russell Wilson and Andy Dalton in the second, and also I think in the 4th or 5th rounds. These are 3rd or 4th round. So you're going to find those good guys later. But when I look at this here, I think Jameson Williams is good. Will he slide? I think it's possible, but I think teams don't want to miss out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of a player. And I think he could slide now if this could happen. I don't see him. Okay, he might slide out of the first round, but if he starts going to that beginning of the second, I'm telling you right now, Veach will trade up for him and get him.
Oh, in a heartbeat. Yeah.
So I think it's a possible he can slide, but it's because this is a hard thing because either he's going to slide or he's going to be picked in the first. He's going to be picked in the first 15.
Yeah.
Like a prime example is, I don't know if you remember this, Keaton and JP, but you guys remember CD Lamb, and he was supposed to be like a top 10 pick. He ended up sliding to about, I think, was it 17 or 20? Yeah. He was like between 17 and 21. Yeah. The Cowboys picked him up. So, I mean, CD Lamb kind of is like the Jameson Williams without the injury. So, I think he could slide. But honestly, it just kind of depends on what the GMs are thinking tomorrow night. Yeah. Who's going to be picked to where, and just kind of all the ideas there, because it's very difficult. But I would say if the Chiefs do trade up, they're going to try to get him, or they're going to try to address an issue of need. I mean, it's just kind of the two sides of the coin there. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I agree. And I think if we're going to look at wide receivers and the possibility of either trading up or just drafting one anyway in the first round, I kind of wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on, if it's not Jameson Williams, which, as we've said before, he could go 10 or wherever he falls to, who else would you like to see the Chiefs draft if they really do feel like wide receiver is their number one priority?
Oh, I mean, what do you think, JP? If you think wide receiver is number one priority and they trade up to, like, say 12, who do you think they should get? Because the options go ahead. Go
ahead. I mean, finish what you're saying.
I was just saying, like, there's several different options. Like, just name them: Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Olave, who's kind of slid down on some. Sorry, guys. Chris Olave has kind of dropped down some draft boards. I mean, there's some options available.
Looking at London, I really like him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would be a good fit in our system. If I had my choice, I would kind of like Drake London. I don't mind Burks. I don't know a whole lot about him. I've seen some of his film, but I haven't seen like an ignorant amount of it. But I think I like London, in that second scenario. Of course, this is all predicated on building on the future as well. And in my opinion, that's what Veach does. It's what he's always done. I mean, he's not only in the win now mode, he's in the win 5 years from now mode. And if he goes for Jameson, depending on where he falls, if he lands at 10, sucks for him, because if that's where he stays, I think if it's not us, it's going to be somebody else that trades up. Now, the one thing I will say is that with Jameson, if he doesn't drop, I think teams are just going to get him so nobody else does, because of his name, what he did in the draft or in college, and the fact that he has an opportunity to be a superstar in the NFL. That would be the only reason why in my opinion, that he doesn't fall to, the high ones or mid to high ones or even low 2s, but I still have a feeling he's going to drop. I could be completely wrong. Again, this is just mock stuff, but I just feel like, given the fact that he has an injury, and then after speaking to this agent friend, that you know who he is, Caleb, and he's done a lot of, he's got a lot of players, and he's had some superstar players in the league. He had the same feeling I did, that he thought he may drop. They've been hyping him up a lot just to keep him from dropping. Most GMs are smart enough to know that.
That's true. That is true.
Chiefs probably brought him in.
Yeah, and they they'll bring you exactly. I mean, the Chiefs are very, and the one thing about the Chiefs that a lot of people don't take into consideration is what one person's physical or workout looks like is in as far as the eye physical is concerned. They may pass one, they may pass everything, but the Chiefs really look in depth at different scenarios and what can happen a year from now. And that's why a lot of times they don't take players that everybody thinks we should take. And of course, when you listen to the fans, they want to take every single player that's ever been cut from every team. I mean, it could be a one-legged guy with 3 fingers and they'd want him for some reason. I don't know why, but it just kind of is what it is. It all depends on what Veach decides he wants. If Andy and him are very hyped on him and feel like he's going to be that guy that can bring them into the future and be okay physically, then they may take a dive for him. But I don't think they're going to make a huge leap in the draft to just grab him. I think if he's there, then they may take him. I don't know that he's the guy that they'll, trade up for. I don't know.
Now, here's my question for you guys. If Kayvon Thibodeau is there at number 12, or in that range where the first 2 first-round picks can get him to that area, do you guys think the Chiefs should get like a guy like Thibodeau if he somehow falls out of the top 10, or even some other great defender? Say somehow Stingley ends up falling. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts there?
Hey, if Stingley falls, I'm all for it. Let me tell you right now, if he fell, I'm all for that.
Something that's interesting about that is he's now the betting favorite to go number 3 overall to the Texans, which is kind of interesting to me because it kind of shakes up the draft board a little bit. I kind of wanted to touch on the Drake London possibility. I can see that. He does play a lot of slot wide receiver, which is what a lot of teams are wanting, him to play for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense perfectly for the Chiefs just because we do have Juju in that slot role, but Juju may be gone after this season. So it may be something that they're trying to build for the future. As for Kayvon Thibodeau, it would shock me if he fell to 12, but we've seen crazier things happen. And I mean, obviously there might be a guy or two that does fall like that, but I think the Kayvon Thibodeau, the hate on him for maybe not being the best run defender and slipping out of the top 10 maybe be a little bit, overplayed, because I think he will go top 10. But if he does fall to 12 and the Chiefs wanted to trade up, I wouldn't be mad at that. We need edge. And I think there's another guy who looks very good that could be available at 29 and 30 who would be Arnold Ebiketie, who we've talked about before, not only on the spaces, but on our draft board, that looks a lot like him just with his burst and get off speed. But I know we really like him. We like Mafe. So there are some guys at 29 and 30 you could be just as productive as a Thibodeau.
And that's kind of what I'm toying with too. And I don't know if you agree with me, JP. They don't need depth for 12 different positions. They're probably going to take 5 players, 5 to 6.
Yeah.
So they're going to make a trade. Now, I don't know what they're going to do with those 7th round picks. Veach is probably going to package a couple in order to get a 6. He might do some pick swaps. But what I'm feeling is that they're going to end up, you're going to have, I feel like, honestly, if you really want to make a splash and get your really impactful player, you're going to have to trade up in the first round. After that, you can kind of figure out different things happen, draft boards change. But I feel like if they really want a good chance, they could possibly get that splash by trading up in the first round. That's just my opinion. Now, it may cost a little bit more than the 2 first rounders and maybe a second, or maybe they can do something else there. But there are some players that could fall if the board ends up dropping the way the Chiefs want to.
I agree. And, it's not again, we trade well with Minnesota, whether it be for players or even draft picks. We've done fairly well with them. There's a few teams that work well with us, not many, but they do. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be unheard of if, they wanted to trade to that 12 spot and grab, I'm tired. So my name keeps slipping. The kid you guys just put in.
Garrett Wilson?
Yeah. If they wanted him, I can see it happening, but I can also see maybe not giving up both first round draft picks this year, maybe giving up one and then one next year and maybe a second. That way we don't lose both of our first rounders this year. I can see that actually happening with Minnesota. If it was Arizona, it wouldn't happen at all.
Oh yeah.
But when you're looking, and in Green Bay, we trade well with Green Bay as well. So that's another team that we may be able to work something out with. I mean, I like Olave. I think he's good. And I think he would be another great asset. Mm-hmm. I like London, even though Juju's in that spot. You still need some rotation and you need to build towards the future. And if you're on a 1-year deal with Juju right now, so honestly, who knows where he's going to be next year and who knows how well he's going to do this year. So that's something that's playing in Veach's mind as he's, everybody I've talked to that's close to him say, he runs scenarios in his mind of, okay, I've got this guy for a year. We know what he's done in the past. Can he step his game up? And then maybe we either continue on with him or do we bring somebody in that can learn the system and then take his place next year?
That's a good point, JP, because you got to build for the future. And I know sometimes we already got a slot receiver, we already got this guy. You're going to need a backup because we've seen some teams get backups who are not up to par to what the standards of an offense should be, or the play calls that should be ran.
Absolutely.
And you bring up a great point there.
Yeah. With Veach, it's just so different. I mean, it's so different than what we're used to when it comes to the draft, because he's so much different in ways that other GMs have been, even with us and in other GMs that are in the league now, is that he puts a lot more effort, I think, in my opinion. And I would say this is, if he was any team, this is not just homerism talking. He puts so much more effort in than, I've been around a lot of GMs, as you know, Caleb, and I don't know of any of them that have been as active and proactive as he's been. He's not the guy that sits on his ass. He's just not. I'll say it again. He goes and he finds players and he looks for them. He doesn't just sit there and wait for them to come to him. So he's been studying this draft, especially since he knew it was going to be a defense heavy draft anyway, and it was going to be really good with wide receivers. He's been studying this draft for a long time. He's been watching those players for a long time.
And the beauty of it, JP, if the Chiefs don't get the defensive guy they won the first round, they can get him in the second.
Yeah, they can get him in the third.
Literally, this draft is very deep at a lot of different positions.
Yeah. You've seen how we've picked guys 4th, 5th, 6th round, and they've turned out to be, not only day one starters, but really
top players that are playing really well.
Elite players in the league, their first season in the league. So he's not, I could tell you that he is not the prototypical I love every first round pick that comes out guy. He loves more of the undrafted guys, the guys that go later in the rounds, smaller schools, that are hungry and ready to come in and prove themselves.
Yeah. And this is something that I actually touched on in the mock draft scenario kind of article that we put out Tuesday, was that we have a lot of options. And I know we've talked about maybe moving up, which definitely would take 2 firsts if we were looking to get into that 12 range. But I think we could get similar value moving back in the draft, because Veach said it. I mean, at the draft, at the combine press conference, that both the corner and defensive end or defensive line draft classes are pretty deep at a lot of positions. So if we were to, because I don't believe we're going to use both of our first round picks, because I think there's going to be a team that needs a quarterback who wants that 5th-year option, who's going to come in and take one of those picks and give us a boatload of picks in return, possibly a second, a third, or more, where Beach could thrive on using those extra picks in the later rounds and getting the good players that he always does in those later rounds.
Yeah. He's he's just a different cat. I mean, he goes for the guys that really have that hunger and that drive. I mean, I've mentioned this years ago, a long time ago on the podcast, but there was a player, and I wish I could remember his name right now, but he was a guy that ended up playing for the Jets, Jets or Minnesota. I don't remember. I think it was the Jets. And he basically stood on the outside of the practice field and hung on the fence. And he did it every day. And, he's just, every day he's hanging on the fence, just watching these guys practice. And finally, I can't remember who the head coach was at the time, but he said, if you think you can come out here and do it, let's go see what you got. Because he saw he was built. He saw he was in good condition. And they went in, signed a waiver. He went out on the practice field and he ripped it up, and he ended up playing like 13, 14 years in the league. Pretty good. He was just some undrafted guy that just hung on the fence. I mean, it's Veach is kind of like that in some ways. He will look for those guys that are hanging on the fence, waiting to just get their opportunity. And I was really surprised, to be honest. When we drafted Mahomes, I knew we wanted him, but I was actually kind of surprised that he traded up 17 spots, that quickly to get him. But he had that plan. And ever since he made that move, it changed my mindset of how he was going to operate from that point on. And I could tell what he was thinking and how he thought about different things. We haven't drafted a quarterback, just so everybody knows, out of the first round. I don't think we drafted a quarterback since, a starting quarterback anyway, since Todd Blackledge.
Yep. Todd Blackledge.
I mean, you're talking about 1980.
84, because they're the 30 for 30.
84. Yeah. 84.
About that draft.
Yeah. And, he passed. I mean, it was a terrible, horrible pick, but, we passed on like Dan Marino. Was it Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, John Elway?
A lot of stars.
From
Elway to Marino, those 5, they missed on those 5 guys. And it was like, dang, we really could have had them.
Yeah. And this is a guy that, once he was out of the league very quickly, he couldn't even make it as a college analyst. So, I was really impressed the fact that Veach had the gusto to beat down doors and say, hey, you need to look at this guy. You need to look at this guy. Because we wouldn't have drafted Mahomes if it wasn't for him. Mm-hmm. He beat the living hell out of doors. And actually, after he showed Andy Mahomes' film, which, Andy and him have been together for a long time, but after he'd shown Andy his film, Andy said, look, you really need to look at this guy before we make any stupid decisions. And it was, Dorsey did it because he had not only his head coach, but one of the top scouts in the league saying, if not the top scout in the league, saying, hey, you'd be stupid. Who gives a shit if you won a national championship or not? This kid's got talent that no one else has.
Yeah. And that's something you've been touching on, JP, for a long time, that it doesn't matter if all these first round guys, the hungry guys are in those later rounds. Like seriously, rounds about say 2 to 5. I would say you're going to get some really good players. You can even get some players in good rounds of 6 and maybe the 7th. That's going to be a couple years down the road. The one thing you've always said and preaching always has stuck to me is that they can really find some of those guys in those rounds, like 3. Alvin Kamara was a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
A lot of different players. Juju Smith was a 3rd round pick. I mean, you got a lot of good guys who make the league from those positions and do fairly well for themselves.
Yeah, and it's not just because of off-field issues or whatever they want to use for excuses. It's because they just fall. It's not always, there's no rhyme or reason why they fall. Sometimes it just happens, and they sometimes it's something that's said. It could be a rumor put out. It could be some bullshit that body said about him, and then it puts a bug in, especially a young GM's ear or a young head coach's ear. Then it starts this whirlwind of talk, and then players start to just kind of fall backwards. I mean, look where Brady was drafted at.
Yeah, as much as it pains us. Yes, he was drafted in the 7th round.
Yeah, so I mean, and if you look at that picture of him, I mean, he looked like some slumpy little kid that didn't belong even on a high school team. He was like a nerdy little kid. But regardless of how you want to look at it, he's turned out to be pretty damn good. And that hurts me to say that. And I'm probably going to have a stomachache after saying that. But it's all about fitment. It's all about scheme, and it's all about hunger when it comes to the draft. And it's always a gamble. Look, for everybody out there that thinks, it's not, it is. You're playing the roulette table when you're in the draft. You're playing a slot machine when you're pulling out of free agency. So your slot machines are a little bit more favorable out of free agency than they are out of the draft. It just is what it is. Veach has been pretty damn good, and we've been really lucky that he has pulled who he has in, because he's really only had about 3 misses. When you really consider it, he's had about 3 misses. So
and one of them really wasn't his fault. It's just due to the roster construction. It's like, well, we don't really need you anymore, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be this is the most, I think, probably, in my opinion, as weird as it is with the quarterback situation in this draft, meaning that there's not 5 or 6 of these top quarterbacks, that you would think would be these great, you hear about all the time. And, we haven't heard about anybody really that's going to be this phenom other than my favorite player, quarterback in the draft right now, the kid from Liberty, that actually started out at Auburn and made the choice to move to Liberty to help a smaller school get better and to help those kids get noticed. And I bet you're going to see a few other guys out of Liberty that if they don't get drafted, they're going to be undrafted free agents. So they're going to go after the draft. So I think he's really, and he's very humble, and I really like him. Malik is just, I think he's going to be a star in this league. And people, if they underestimate him, that's great, because he's got the attributes of Russell Wilson. He's got a little bit of Mahomes in him. He's got a little bit of Lamar Jackson in him. He's just got a lot of different talent, or a lot of different talents that is going to really help a team. And I think he's able to, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I think he's able to make players better, similar to the way Mahomes makes players better.
Yeah, so, and I think one thing, and Keaton, where did we have him fall in our mock draft?
So in our mock draft, it was kind of different, but it made sense, when you're talking about the rumors that we've heard, such as the Panthers are interested in trading out of the top 10, and their owner actually went to Pitt, where Kenny Pickett played. We had them trading with the Steelers, and the Steelers selecting Malik Willis at pick 6, and then the Panthers selecting Kenny Pickett at 20. Now, I think this makes sense all around for both teams. Both teams need quarterbacks, and I think the Panthers, I mean, you look at their defense, they have good wide receivers, good weapons. If he plays up to like what we think he can play to, they could be a playoff team this year that could be scary. And they aren't right now with Sam Darnold. They're probably a lottery pick team next year again if they have Sam Darnold all year.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you guys got him at 6. Given the fact that there are 3 teams right now that are in desperate need of a day one starting quarterback, he may go a little bit better than 6, but I like where he's sitting right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody didn't really push to get him sooner and try to, move up in the draft to grab him, because, you're looking at like Seattle, they don't have a quarterback.
the Giants.
The Giants
Could
don't
be
have
an
a
option.
quarterback. I mean, they have one, but again, he's not.
Daniel Jones ain't in it really.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Exactly. There's so many teams out there that could really use somebody with his talent. And when you're really thinking about it, you can look at Miami and go, damn, Miami, they have no, they've got all the talent, but they don't really have a quarterback so far that has proven much. So even though I've always been a Tua fan, I thought he was kind of shunned a little bit and thrown off to the sidelines a little bit. He's not in a good system. And I think
it doesn't fit his style, and he needs a lot more stronger weapons around him to make him look better.
Yeah,
I mean, when you go to Alabama, I mean, like, dang, I mean, everyone looked like a star. I mean, you got the best offensive line, you got the best running back, you got the best receiving core.
I agree. And I think I've seen him drafted as high as pick number 2. I've seen Malik Willis drafted to the Lions even. And I don't know. I mean, I know the Dolphins, pretty much have no shot at him just not having a first or second this year. But I mean, I agree with that as well. I think if you don't have a top 10 quarterback, you're wasting your time trying to go deep in the playoffs. I mean, I think all Chiefs fans seen it. I mean, we all thought that Alex Smith was a great quarterback, which he wasn't a bad quarterback, but he just wasn't a top 10 quarterback. And that's
going to get us to the wall.
To have a Super Bowl caliber team, you have to have a top 10 quarterback nowadays.
Well, the game has changed so much. Alex was he was a great player in so many ways. It was that over the hump thing when he got into the playoffs that it really, it kind of reminded me of how we played in the 90s. I mean, it was like you get to the playoffs and then, it's over. Even in the 2000s there for a while, when we got to the playoffs, it's over. Peyton Manning kick our ass, or somebody that was just a high caliber, high elite quarterback would come in and just roast us. And at times we were beating them. I mean, look at the time in 13, we're up 24-0 or 28-0,
38-10.
Yeah. And then, ended up losing. And and then in 17 again, you see it with Alex Smith, having his really the best statistical year he's ever had. And he fell short. And I'm not going to put all the blame on him, because there was something going on there that everybody knows about. And it kind of hurt him in 17. But what I think I liked about him the best is he was such a great mentor and a coach that he helped Mahomes a lot. And most starting quarterbacks aren't willing to do something like that. And that's what made Alex Smith great, was the fact that he wasn't the Joe Flacco that was sitting on a bench saying, well, it's not my damn job to teach somebody how to play. If they don't know how to play, then they shouldn't be in the league, because he didn't want somebody to take a starting role. Alex Smith knew why they brought Mahomes in, because they knew he was going to, he knew that following year that he was out. So they're getting back to the draft though. I think that, Malik can help any team get better as long as he can make average quarterbacks better. I mean, wide receivers better. I see a lot of that in him, and I think he's really going to thrive in this league. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody really jumped up to grab him, because he's good. Probably the only quarterback in the draft right now that I would say could come out day one starter and make a huge impact for whatever team he's on.
It may not win, but he's going to do his best to put him in the position.
Exactly. So I watched a ton of his film, and kid's just got unbelievable raw talent. He's got speed. He's accurate as can be. He's got a great arm. He may not be the biggest quarterback out there as far as height is concerned. I think he's like 6 foot, I think maybe 220, but maybe 6'1", 220. But he's still just a very solid, polished quarterback with a great, amazing poise, and he's very mature beyond his years. So,
well, I got a question for you guys. Do you guys think when the GMs start talking about GMs or just analysts start saying about quarterbacks' height, do you guys think that that's even a factor? Because Russell Wilson broke the mold, and you have quarterbacks like Doug Flutie, who was somewhat successful. I feel like they kind of put players in a box, and they don't want to go away from that. It's like you could obviously get a good player like a Russell Wilson, or some other guys that are technically sound. Like they don't have to be 6'2", 6'3" all the time. Like Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's not tall, but he has mixed up in other attributes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think whenever Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl, I think he broke that standard of quarterbacks have to be tall to win the big game. Mm-hmm. We saw him perform at a level, and I know Kyler Murray's even shorter than him, I believe.
Yeah, he is.
He's a Pro Bowler. And so I think that is not a thing anymore. I don't think people are scared to draft a guy because apparently he can't see over his O-line. We know that's not true. And we've seen guys be top 10 quarterbacks, and be really short. So, and I don't think Malik Willis is that short, so I don't think it affects him that much anyway. But I mean, specifically with his height, I don't think that's much of a factor, but I do think that Russell Wilson definitely broke that mold. And I had a question for you guys relating back to the draft once again. If the scenario was that we kept picks 29 and 30, who do you think would be the best option to fill the positions of need when we're looking at corner, edge, and wide receiver?
Corner, edge, and wide receiver. Okay, so we'll say, so 29. I'm in the firm belief the Chiefs are just going to wait to get a wide receiver in the second round. If I'm looking at players such as edge, and if they were possibly still there, looking at players like Arnold Ebiketie, I know we talked about him. Also, Boye Mafe is also an option. George Karlaftis, if he somehow drops, now he's projected to go from 10 to 20. He could drop there. Corner, was the cornerback the other position you were talking about, Keaton?
Corner, edge, and wide receiver.
Okay. And for cornerback, I mean, I know we kind of talk about Jalen Petrie. He may not fit the system. That would be an option there. The player that sticks out to me probably is what's his name? Kaiir Elam, cornerback from Florida. So some options there. You also got a guy like Trent McDuffie. He may drop to the second. He may be there. And actually, which is interesting too, he has a teammate from Washington, and I forgot the guy's name, but he's pretty good. So, and I know kind of who.
Kyler Gordon.
Yeah, and he's good too. Now, some people are saying he could be a first round pick, but say, hey, the Chiefs can't get their guy they won the cornerback, they might be getting the second or third round because he could drop. But they're having talks saying that he has made a potential to be a first round pick.
Yeah, I want to add one thing.
Okay.
One thing that's really underrated to me, I've heard, we talked about the Chiefs trading up to 12 and those really early first round picks. But what if they were able to package one of the seconds they have and move up just in the 20s to get a guy like Andrew Booth, who we both love and think could be one of the best players in this draft, or maybe a Traylon Burks, and you wouldn't have to give up both first round picks. And then once you get that player, you still have one of the two 29 or 30 picks that you could use to take a Kiri Elam or Boye Mafe or Ebiketie, who I think could be a star. Mm-hmm. I think that scenario actually leaves us with a lot more potential because you're still getting a high-end player, but you don't have to give up as much. And then in the second, you could get a guy like Mechie, who we've talked about, who could be one of the best wide receivers. Once again, will have to heal after his injury or whatnot. It might be a late, a guy that comes in later, but he's a guy who could play slot. He could play an X. Mm-hmm. He can play almost, the same style that Tyreek played, maybe just not to as efficient standard as Tyreek, but he could be a guy that could fill those snaps. And even though he isn't Tyreek Hill, he could do the things that we're used to Tyreek Hill doing, such as, running those bubble screens, doing the deep post routes. So we have fast receivers, but we don't have a small, speedy wide receiver, which he is. He's also a great route runner.
Oh, just to break in real quick, the Chiefs just signed Anthony Gordon, quarterback.
Oh yeah, I saw that earlier.
Yeah,
that's a good move. It
was pretty much done earlier, I guess, but they just announced it a few minutes ago.
You know who I like really, really more than that guy? I love Shane Buechele. I don't know if you last year.
I liked him.
He was awesome during preseason, and he was a guy who the Chiefs didn't want anyone else to get.
Yep.
Because they kept protecting him after game. I remember seeing it every day after the game on Instagram that they put I don't know what kind
of squad protection.
Yeah, on him and maybe a couple other players, but it was him every week. So, there is something to think about. If there was a team that wanted to really wanted him and to try him out, they could, after, if he has a strong preseason like he did last year, we could possibly be getting a pick next year for him as well, because
That's
obviously
true.
he's either going to take Chad Henne's role, which I think is more likely. But if he ends up playing really well in the preseason, I could see him wanting a shot at a starting job somewhere else. But I really think he could help the Chiefs after next season to be a cheap backup option.
That's fair. I think that's good, because you don't know what's going to happen to Mahomes. He could get hurt in one game. He may need to go out for a couple plays. I mean, we see when players get their helmets knocked off, they have to get off for a play. And let's say, what if Mahomes' helmet came off and they need Bouchel to come in and make a play? I mean, that might happen. I mean, just kind of looking the way the NFL is. But I mean, but that just shows Veach and Andy and the whole coaching staff scouted Bouchel. He originally was at Texas, transferred to SMU, did really good there, and the Chiefs were able to get him. I mean, you have to look at these later rounds, because if you don't find these guys in the later rounds, you're not going to do as well. That's kind of the reason, excuse me, why the Rams have kind of been successful in trading around their picks, because they've been getting guys in the later rounds like a Cooper Kupp that has been able to show up and show out week after week.
Yeah. And, going back to Keaton's question about corners, people are kind of sleeping a little bit on Andrew Booth. I think he's a great corner, and I think he'd actually fit well in our system. I like Elam, but I mean, if we couldn't get Elam, I wouldn't be mad if we grabbed Booth Jr.
I agree with that.
Yeah. People can, like I said, they sleeping on him a little bit, but I think he's pretty dynamic. And the fact that, of course, he didn't come from, I mean, he's with Clemson, and everybody, is, of course, all up on Clemson, ball, but he's got a lot of attributes that he kind of reminds me a little bit of Ward. Watching some of his film, he emulates a little bit of Ward's play, and I like the fact that he's more penalty free, which in that position you really need. Sorry, but I mean, you got to have him. You got to have a guy that's in a CB position that is penalty free, because you're always going to have another one that is going to draw the penalties, which doesn't hurt my feelings. I've been a big, Brashad Breeland fan for ever, and he did extremely well with us. He just wasn't utilized correctly in Minnesota, but I think he got a little too much flack for his penalties, and of course the refs went after him because he didn't take no shit from anybody. But this kid here, we need another Ward. We need another guy that's going to be able to keep people out of the end zone, keep the first downs from accumulating, and also keep that penalty count down, and a humble guy. I've told you, Caleb, I don't know how many times, I'm not going to get over that for a long time. If they find somebody that can play as well as he did, and with his mindset, his humbleness, and that I may be okay, but I still wish Ward was with our team.
I'll tell you this, JP. I know Veach did not want to let him go.
No.
But he realized, I was able to do the scouting and get a guy like him from Middle Tennessee State. And I remember you can only find a couple of highlights of him on YouTube. Everyone's like, I don't see what Veach sees in him, but I mean, guess he'll be okay. And yeah, he had a first rough go around in that those first couple games in that Mahomes' first season. Yeah. But after that, he played really well and consistent. Yeah. And we're like, well, this is the guy. This is who we have right here. And I mean, this is what they're going to roll with. So, I mean, I know Veach did not want to let him go, but he is very confident he's either going to get a top corner or he can find a good guy later in these rounds. I mean, Snead, for my goodness sake, was a 4th round pick. And JP, that year Snead was taken, I wanted the Chiefs get Amik Robertson, his sidekick, his main man on the other side that was playing pretty well too. But it just shows you, like, if you can really find these guys, they will benefit and help you.
Oh, yeah. And I heard some talk about Snead not having such a great year last year. He actually had a really good year. I don't know why people seem to, they pick out one game or one play and they think he had a bad year. One game, one play is not a bad year. It's one game or one play. He's a very talented ball player with a lot of football IQ that he sees the field in 360 view, and he's a ball hawk, and given the opportunity he'll be able to just thrive. And as far as the CB is concerned, I think people also forget, everybody says, well, we got to have all these CBs because we only have two. That's actually not true. I mean, we've got Baker, we've got Snead, we've got Fenton, and we also have Josh Jackson sitting in the waiting, and we'll see how he does as through the off season. But he was, if I'm not mistaken, a former first round pick. Isn't that right, Caleb Jackson? Wasn't he a former first rounder?
I think he was a second.
Maybe he went low
or a third, because I remember it was crazy looking at the Packers draft board. They end up basically just taking the two best cornerbacks available. Yeah. That just went from one and then to the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember him being taken. I think he might be a second. Do you know Keaton?
I think that was maybe Kevin King that you're thinking of. I don't remember what. I'll look at.
There was two of them. There was Jair Alexander from Iowa. No, Jair Alexander and then Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson, I think, was from Iowa. Jair Alexander, I think he was from Louisville, but I could be wrong. But I remember seeing these are the two just top-rated guys, and I've never seen a team do that before. Go from number one to number two like that. Yeah. That's what kind of just stuck with me.
Yeah. And I think he's a good player. I mean, I think he was just not in the right systems, and he will. I think he could thrive, if he's willing to do it. And I know he is. He's happy where he's at right now. So he was just happy that we, brought him back. And there's a reason why they did. I mean, they're not going to bring anybody back that they don't feel is worth it. Getting on to something that Keaton was talking about with Buechele. They tried 3 times to get him off of our
practice
squad. And, we had to protect him. And then also by the way, when everybody's, said that, I think it was Washington was calling every team in the league looking for a quarterback, and they actually called the Chiefs asking about Mahomes. They weren't asking about Mahomes. They were asking about Buechele. They knew better than to ask about.
I don't know, JP. Some of these guys, but I know, I see what you're saying.
No, Ron Rivera knew better, and when I asked, they said no. They were actually asking about Buechele because they needed a quarterback, and no team in their right mind would call up the Chiefs right now and say, "Hey, you want to trade? You want to make a trade with Mahomes?" Because that's not going to happen. We got the best contract in the league with the best quarterback in the league, and anybody that would be stupid enough to ask that question is either just drunk or joking, one of the two. But getting, looking at what we have I think we're probably going to end up with max 6 picks out of this draft. I don't know about you guys. And I want your opinions, but I think maybe if pushing it would be 7, but I think maybe max 6.
I agree with that. And I just looked it up. Josh Jackson was a 2nd round pick, number 45 overall in 2018, who is definitely a guy who you should keep your eye on. But I agree that the Chiefs probably should use even 8 or 9, but we have 12 right now. Yeah. So I think, I don't know, seeing what we did last year, trading up for Noah Gray, I think we see in some of these later rounds, maybe the 4th round or 5th round, Beach has his guys in each one of those rounds. And I think, depending on how those guys fall, he might use some of those seconds to move up in later rounds where they could be worth a little bit more than in the 1st round, where you're basically just giving them away to teams just to sweeten the deal a little bit. I think you can use those picks and get a role player. And I think, going back to what you said about Ward, you got Ward for a backup offensive lineman from the Cowboys.
Yep, Parker Inger.
Who was a undrafted free agent
on top of it. Yeah, that's funny.
And he, Inger was okay, but I don't know if he's with anybody right now. And Ward's getting paid $15 million a year. So I think, going back to that, he may have been a little overpaid. I don't think the Chiefs were willing to match that. I do agree that he was an impact player for the team, but I think it's time that the Chiefs invest some high-end draft capital in a cornerback who could be a team leader for years to come. And that's really something we've seen, hurt us in the playoffs the last couple of years is our cornerback play, which it hasn't been awful, but you need better than not awful to be a contending team. Like we saw last year with Jalen Ramsey. I mean, even the Bengals had some of the best rated PFF corners in football. So I think that's a really valuable position that's kind of underrated. You have to have
right now the market. I mean, as far as I think what Ward's being paid, the market's dictating more money than what he's being paid. In my opinion, I think he, 14. I think he's at 14. He's
making a pretty good amount of money, but it's like you said, the market value.
The market value right now is high on corners, and I think he really is. I think he's probably a little underpaid when you really consider his stats. I mean, he was top 4 in almost every stat except for interceptions, of course, and there was one other stat I can't remember now. And he probably would have been a little bit better if it wasn't for that Week 17 game. But you can't blame him for being out there on an island by himself. But against a guy that, arguably one of the better wide receivers in the league, especially with his hands pushing. But I think Ward maybe a little under. I think he's been underrated his whole career. So, and even within our own fan base, he was underrated. But when you really look at the grand scheme of things, you're right, Keaton. I mean, I think we need to have a great one strong leader cornerback that will come in and do the job. Now, Veach has always been more safety than he has been corner. He's never really went for the first, second round picks with a corner. He did. I think Snead was a 4th round pick, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He always goes into the higher rounds for corners, and it's because he's a safety guy. I mean, he values safeties more than he does corners. We need to have, with the offense that we have, I'll say it again, we need a top 15 minimum defense to win. Now, if this was 2019, I would say we could get away with a top 25, 20, but we need a top 15 defense, especially going into the season with the schedule that we have, because I would have to rank that one as either it's the hardest. Yeah, it's the hardest ranked schedule in the league. So, which is amazing to me, given the fact that when you look at the year in 2020 when Brady won the Super Bowl, he had the 29th easiest schedule in the league out of 32.
Tell me Brady doesn't play anyone? What a shocker, JP.
Yeah, no, he never plays anybody. It's I mean, but he's a bad motherfucker. He just, he's not playing anybody. And again, it's not like this is anything new. That was kind of the MO during his run with New England. Is he really, he was guaranteed 6 wins a year, and then
because the divisions he played in were so bad. The AFC East was not good, and then the NFC South is like no one's really going to be there. Maybe the Saints, but that's really it.
Yeah, and now the Saints, without Breeze, they're, I don't know. We'll have to see how they fare. But one quick question about the NFL, other than the draft, I want to know your guys' opinion on where you think Baker's going to land. I have a feeling I know, and I've heard, but what's your guys' opinion?
You want to go first, Caleb? I'll go second.
Yeah, that's fine. Seattle's an option. That's the only one that makes sense in my head. Honestly, I would not be surprised wherever he goes, because someone will end up calling at the end of the day. The team I would say is Seattle, unless they get a quarterback. Now, I think it's unless Seattle ends up drafting a quarterback, I think they're just kind of in that mode. It just makes no sense to trade for Mayfield and then have a top guy there, because it's just going to cause friction.
Yeah,
it's not even worth it. You're just wasting the pick at that point.
Yeah, and I got 2 things here. One, I do believe that you're correct. I think it'll be Seattle. Not only did Baker Mayfield say it himself on his little podcast thing that Seattle was a team that had offered him a job, but I don't think that the Panthers are willing to do that, because they've already done their time with a with a back or a quarterback that didn't perform with their team that they traded for or whatnot. I don't think they'd be willing to do that again. And I think that's pretty much the only other team that makes sense. I did hear that the Browns, or sorry, not the Browns. That's the team he's on. The Steelers would pick him up if he was released the next day. And he could go in and compete with Mitchell Trubisky to win a starting job over there. But I think his better option is to go compete with Drew Lock, and I think he would win that job and be a starter again if he did that. The other thing was I just saw something from Aaron Ladd that USC wideout Drake London did visit the Chiefs, and he just quoted that on the possibility of playing with Patrick Mahomes. He said he is our generation's Tom Brady. So obviously he has interest in playing with the Chiefs. So that's something to look at.
Yeah. Well, you know who else said that? DK Metcalf.
He did say that. I remember that at the combine.
Yep.
Oh, he did say that? Oh,
yeah.
Well, he doesn't want to come to Kansas City. He said it was too cold.
That was a while ago.
That was a while ago, but he did say in the combine that he would want to. In fact, he was relishing the fact that he had the opportunity to maybe play with Mahomes. But now it's it's too cold for him, I guess. But
well, I remember looking at that and I'm like, AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. I don't know why teams slept on them. I really don't. I really felt that DK was a good player. I would have taken him in the second round.
They slept on him because he did have.
They said injuries and stuff, but I'm like, these guys can still play, and DK proved it.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes a narrative just gets put and then no one wants to break the grain, go against the grain, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's no different than when you hear people say, well, they didn't win the national championship. Why would I want him? I mean, just because you didn't win one doesn't mean you're not a great player. So it takes more than one to win. So it's kind of a silly statement to make. I mean, also with DK, part of the problem is they did say he was a little bit of the arrogance that we've seen his first season and even going into his second season with Seattle was even a little higher in college or a little stronger, I should say. His arrogance was a little bit more prevalent, and that was part of the reason why some teams slept on him. They weren't really sleeping on him. They just didn't want a locker room.
It just seemed like the blatant disrespect from what I saw. I was like, come on, guys. Just because he's a big receiver, he may not run routes the way you think, doesn't mean he can't play. I was thinking he could do well. Now, do I expect him to have the numbers he's having now? No, but I expect him to do well. Same with A.J. Brown. Those are just kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. And A.J. has been a great player. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I still think if there was, out of all the wide receivers, and I want you guys' opinion. In fact, why don't you guys give me your opinion right now? Out of all the wide receivers that are a potential trade candidate right now that are active players in the league, pick one that you would like to have.
Go ahead, Keaton.
I think I touched on this, that mine would be Terry McLaurin. I think we had a consensus there that Terry McLaurin would be able to come and fill that role. But if it's not Terry and if any of these other guys, I think you give up too much if it's anybody else. And honestly, I'm at the point right now where I'm willing to say I would rather use those picks to trade up for Jameson Williams. But if it's not Terry McLaurin, because I believe that Terry McLaurin would be a great fit in our offense, and we should do everything we can to get him, which is, maybe trading a first, maybe he doesn't go for a first, Tyreek went for a first, maybe it's a second and a fourth. I'd be willing to do that to bring him in and pay him, which we can do. But if it's not him, I would be ecstatic if the Chiefs were able to bring in Jameson Williams. That's my opinion on that guy.
Yeah.
And people will probably get mad at me, but if there's a player, and can this be a player that they could get like right now, like theoretically?
Yeah.
It'd be Deebo Samuel. That's just my opinion. And the reason why is because he's just so dynamic. He wants to be a traditional wide receiver. He can do what Tyreek Hill does, meaning that he can be the traditional wide receiver, but he can do a jet sweep out of the backfield, or if they need him for like a trick play, something, he can do stuff. I mean, they don't have to use him like a gadget guy. Seriously, you can put him out the traditional wide receiver and it's going to help everyone. But a player I would want, and if the compensation was right, would be a Deebo Samuel. Yeah. If I were the 49ers, I would take that, because two different things you can do. Number one, you get picks 29, 30. You can pick player with 29. You can trade back with 30 to get a couple more picks to add more picks. Because remember, 49ers don't have a lot of picks. So I would go from that frame mindset, but they probably want to keep them. It's reported, like you said, JP, the Jets have offered a lot. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's my reasoning on why I think the 49ers should trade Debo to the Chiefs and why the Chiefs should get Debo. He's only going to make the offense better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think yeah, go ahead.
I'm just one of those people that I've been really high on Terry, and I think the reason I think he would fit well in our scheme because he's done so well with so little. He's one of those guys that didn't have a quarterback to really, I guess, make his game easier. That's for sure. It was pretty difficult for him to pull the numbers that he pulled with what he had to work with. And I think that given the fact he's able to do so much with so little, it shows how much football IQ he has, but how much talent he has as well. That's what I love about him is that he's a workhorse and he's extremely talented, very high football IQ, and was able to do so much with so little. I mean, he could have done that. Honestly, I would venture to say that he'd have the same numbers with the Jets, with Carolina, with, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that he could have just made better. And he's like the Patrick Mahomes of wide receivers because he's one of those guys that makes your quarterback better. He makes your other wide receivers better. He makes your running backs better. I mean, and he's very humbled. And I think that's what I like about him the most. But that's just me. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not that I dislike Debo. I think he'd be a great fit as well. But I think Terry would fill a role. I think he could come in and be a number one wide receiver with us. I really truly think he could. Just because of the way his style is, and I think he would understand our offense really quickly, where a lot of guys can't. Most guys can't. So that's just my opinion. But again, I'm no coach. I'm no GM. I'm just a guy on Twitter. But it's just something that I don't know. I see what he's done, and I think, man, if we could somehow, and I really wanted them to draft him. I really wish we could have drafted him. I think he would have just been explosive. I mean, explosive with us. His numbers would be so much higher. He would step in and have 1,000-yard season. I truly believe that. He'd step in and have 1,000. Yeah.
Especially with the snap shares. I talked about it earlier, but if you look at the wide receivers who left, Robinson, Pringle, Hill, that's our top three wide receivers right there, other than Kelsey, who's not a wide receiver, but he did get thrown to like a wide receiver. But
yeah,
I think if you're talking about target share, he easily gets over 100 or 1,000 yards. And I think Juju or Martez Valdez-Scantling can do the same thing. It's just whoever steps up and fills the role and plays in the system well enough and grasps the playbook. It's just going to take a lot, but I think all three of those guys have a potential to put up 1,000-yard season, and then adding a Terry McLaurin would give you a certified wide receiver one that's proven, that's been there and done it, and he's done it well. And I remember seeing this clip of him tracking a ball down last year that was severely, so it was a bad throw, to put it simply, and he was able to like contort his body and catch it over his shoulder while falling to the ground. And he's just that kind of player. He's got the X factor, as they say on Madden. He's got the X factor. He can make those kind of plays that Tyreek did, and probably even more so with Mahomes at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. With Mahomes' immense talent of making people better, and then Terry also having that same attribute, I think they would get along extremely well. He could be that guy that Mahomes' go-to guy. I mean, other than Kelsey, he could be that definite go-to guy. So I don't know. There's so many different scenarios that you can look at when it comes to the draft and free agency. Who wants to be traded? The whole Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams thing put a frenzy of guys that may not even be worthy of more money out there wanting more money. So it's difficult. Now I know that Terry is not asking for Tyreek money at all. He's not even, I mean, he's not even close really, but I know Debo really wasn't asking for a ton, but
he likes one like 20. He doesn't even, he wants like 24, 20. He doesn't want that much. He just mainly wants his longevity to continue. And he knows he can't have that if you're going to be quarterback some plays because he has from the ball, wide receiver, running back. I mean, he does it all for that team.
He really does. He really does. And it's sad because it's shortening his career. Every year that he plays like that, you might as well take a year off his career, because he's, when you're playing, you're running the ball 20 times a game, and then you're out there on pretty much every other snap as wide receiver. Your body's taking a beating, and it shortened his career no matter how you look at it. And wide receivers can last into their mid 30s. Look at LaShawn Jackson. I mean, he's 37 years old, and he was out there returning punts last year for the Raiders. So, I mean, you play the game right. And if you do, that's one thing that irritates me about everybody that says Kelce can't block. He blocks extremely well. He just does it in a manner that's not going to get him hurt. And for everybody out there that thinks you have to put your head into somebody's chest or go head first into someone and bury him in the ground to make a block, that is absolutely not the case. When you have wide receivers that are talented, all you need to do is take a half a second off of a DB's, route or his run to be able to get that wide receiver by. And that's what Kelce does so well. And he's going to play until he's, 36, 37, just like Gonzalez did. But I think he's going to outshine. I think he's already outshined Gonzalez in a lot of ways. And as sad as I've known that man for a long time, and as sad as it hurt, it used to pain me to say it. It doesn't so much anymore because he's changed so much. But I think he's outshined Gonzalez, and I think he's just going to continue to do it. He may not have all the touchdowns yet, but look at it. I mean, it took Gonzalez.
That's the main thing.
Well, yeah, and the fact that it took Gonzalez 12 years with us to get to, I think in 12 years, he had somewhere around 75 touchdowns in 12 years. And the rest of them all came from Atlanta. So Kelce's on his 9th season, and I think he's at 68, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So he's definitely going to pass. He's going to surpass Gonzalez by the time he hits his 12th season. He's going to really surpass him, but he'll definitely break that record of Gonzalez's with 110 touchdowns. And I don't know what he's going to do for yardage, but I definitely think he's going to break that 110. So.
Oh, for sure. And he's more of a yardage tight end anyway. He may not get to the touchdown record, but he will certainly have the yardage record. And I think he might have the all-time yardage record.
Yeah, and he may have, and I still think he'll get to the touchdown record. I mean, he's in his 9th season. He's got six. I think it's 68 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
Big check.
I think it's pretty close to 68. But
he's at 60.
60. Okay, so 60 touchdowns in his 9th season. So he's averaging 9 touchdowns a year right now. He can easily,
I would say about 9, 8 to 9.
8 to 9 a year. So if he has a breakout season again and, does another 1,000 yards and another 9 and another 9 and another 9, he could easily get to 110 with us by the time, he's ready to retire. And Gonzalez did that with 2 teams, not just with one. Exactly. So that's just, I love the fact that he's not going anywhere. And that's the one player that we don't have to worry about. I mean, you can talk about all the other players on our team other than Mahomes and think, okay, well, they may be gone in a year or two. You can talk about the Chris Joneses and guys like that, but Gonzalez or Kelce's not going anywhere. He's going to retire a Chief. He doesn't want to play anywhere else. He does not want to play with anyone else besides Mahomes. And he doesn't want to play for anyone else besides Andy Reid. He's been very protective over Andy. He's been very protective over Pat. He's been overly protective with Andy to the point where he's almost killed our offensive coordinator a couple of times. But
I think everyone was mad the offensive coordinator lost off season, to be honest.
Yeah. But Kelsey's went after him 2 years in a row.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen there's been brush ups with them arguing back and forth on the sidelines. I mean,
yeah,
it
Kelsey's
happens.
just a different cat, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you jack with Andy and you got Kelsey on your back. I wouldn't want that.
Well, I think because I think because Andy stuck with him,
Yeah.
even with all the shenanigans and all the immaturity in the beginning.
This crazy
really
ass TV
stuck-
show and everything.
He really stuck with him and helped him, and I think that's probably why he's like,
Yeah.
thank you.
I
Because a
love
lot of coaches would have been like, all right, you're done. But
Did
Andy would
anybody
like
watch
work
his
with
TV
him.
Oh,
show?
Yeah,
No. Oh, did you
God.
watch it?
I did.
I did too. It was comical. I mean, he's a funny guy anyway. No matter how you look at it, he cracks me up. But it was actually comical. I couldn't believe he even did it. But he's got that personality. I mean, he really does have that personality, and I could see him after football doing one of two things. He's either going to do TV,
Broadcaster,
movie,
sure.
or he's going to be an amazing broadcaster. He's got so much talent other than football. He's funny. He's a funny guy. He's got charisma. He's got, he's an outgoing guy. He's got great charisma. His brother's got a lot of charisma. He's just not as well spoken, but he's got a lot of charisma himself, and he's a little lunatic. And look, he just signed. Again, he re-signed. So, and God, how old is he now?
I think he was a little older than Kelsey's.
Yeah,
He came out the draft for
3 years older, I think, maybe. But in that position to play that long, he's going to feel it later on. There's no doubt. But he's still going, and he's still going strong. So I got to give it to him. I mean, he does some crazy crap, but those guys are night and day. If you ever look at them, they're night and day. I mean, Kelsey's like this, almost modern city guy that, loves everything. You look at his brother, and he's like almost this cowboy style guy, country music, the whole, hardcore.
Story about that.
Huh?
Is me and my dad went to one of the playoff Chiefs games, and Jason Kelsey sat behind us in the box seat and was cussing out the refs and stuff.
Yeah.
And from his box seat, when the play was happening, and it was hilarious because I think I said it to my dad. I was like, "Is that Jason Kelsey behind us?" And we both had to look back, and it literally looks like Travis Kelsey. I mean, if he was alive, and we looked back and we were like, "That's definitely Jason Kelsey." And it was only affirmed when he started cussing out the refs.
What game was this that you guys went to?
I was trying to remember this. I think it was it wasn't the AFC Championship game the first time. I think it was the I know it was actually the Steelers Chiefs playoff loss where we kicked 1,000,000 field goals.
I remember that. Yeah.
I remember watching that game, getting really mad. I don't want those memories again.
We
kicked six field goals.
Yeah.
Alex Smith missed a wide open Tyreek Hill, and the offense was stagnant until the last second. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, James Harrison in that D end on the other side fell. And I'm, as the guys, people can't see me, in quotes, fell. They legit fell at the same time. And
they
called a holding on Fisher. And Kelsey was funny because he just let loose. And he said the rush does he deserve to wear it?
That was awesome.
That was
awesome, man. That was funny. He goes, he shouldn't be wearing them stripes even at Foot Locker. I almost peed. I mean, that was the best post-game interview with the player that I've seen. Probably ever. He was so blunt and so unfiltered. It was great. I loved it. And they did deserve it. I mean, no matter how you look at it, those refs deserved what he gave them. But man, he wasn't holding back. That was phenomenal. He's just, I don't know. He's a funny guy, man. He's a good dude, and I'm just glad he's a Chief. But moving on, I mean, we've covered a lot of this draft stuff, and we know, people can see our draft stuff out there. You guys put it together something awesome, and I really appreciate what you guys have done with the draft. It's amazing to put, all the work and the effort that you guys put into that. And I wish people understood how much work and effort you guys really did put into that. By the way, everybody, they didn't use a computer algorithm. they're not Cynthia Freeland. They're not Bucky Brooks. They're not, the guys that slap players and say, okay, well, how about these stats? How about these stats? They actually looked at the players, and that's a lot of work to do. That's a lot of work to put in. So hats off to both of you guys for doing that. That was a lot of work over a long period of time, and ours came out a little bit later, simply because they put so much work into it. And I think
we were making adjustments all the way up till today, the last hour.
Actually, half hour ago they were making adjustments, or an hour ago. So right before we started the show. So pretty strong for a group of guys that haven't played the game, and you, Keaton, have played, and all I've done has been around it a lot, and Caleb's been around it a lot, but we're not on TV, but we're you guys are strong, and I'll give it to you. I mean, Keaton, before you came on, like I've told you before, I've watched him pull just these rabbits out of his ass, and he's nailed it. And I'm like, how the hell did he just do that?
I got the sheet. Actually, right down here, I still got the sheet of some of the players I predicted. Yeah. So
he hit 3 of 4 1 year, and I was like, damn. I mean,
I think it was 2 out of 3.
You hit 2 out of 3 1 year, and I think 3
I
out
hit
of
2 out of 3 in the first round. I was like, oh, I'm doing really good. And then
you were rolling
after that. Yeah. I was like, these are some players, but it's a bigger scale now. But I appreciate.
To be fair, after
go ahead.
Yeah, to be fair, after those later rounds, it gets to pretty much a crapshoot with who's going to go where, because even the experts don't. A lot of them don't even pay attention to football, especially they don't focus on guys that are later round picks.
No, they don't. Mm-hmm. I think after round really 4, they're like, okay, whatever
after
happens,
round 1,
happens.
People just
sometimes,
don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's not important after Roger Goodell doesn't do the picks anymore. Exactly. After it's like the 4th round, they're like, we're just gonna speed through it. I'm like, I want to see the highlights. So when they're behind like 3 or 4 picks, you're just like, come on, ESPN, or come on, whoever you're watching, like, hurry it up. Let's keep it.
That happens until training camp. It's the most exciting thing that happens to me. I mean, it's like watching a Chiefs game. I mean, you're looking at maybe 12 new Chiefs coming in, and probably not 12, but a lot of new guys coming in and going to be defensive and offensive starters day 1 next year. And I'll be glued to the TV until round 7 is over, because anything can happen.
Well, and we know that. I mean, we've seen Veach go in 6 and just snag somebody that everybody else passed on. And honestly, if anybody thinks that Trey Smith shouldn't have been a minimum of a 2nd round pick is on they're smoking heroin, because look what that man has done. I mean, look what he has done in this league. 1 season in this league, and he's regarded as one of the best to play the game. And everybody just slept on him. And I thought it was fantastic that they did. And Veach wanted him the entire time. I mean, he wanted him the entire time. So you gotta, when you're a Chiefs fan and you got a GM like Veach, you have to watch to the end, especially this year. Now, granted, I mean, are we going to have 4 first round or 7th round picks? No. More than, I mean, I would put, I would say 99% chance we're not going to have 7 first round picks at the end, but we will probably have 1. And I want to see who the hell we're picking. I mean, I want to see who it is. And look, a lot of people don't realize this, but some of these guys that we draft may not be a guy that we want when it gets into especially when you got 12 picks. So if we do pick up a couple extras past 6, these may be players that other teams want, and we can make trades with them after the fact. So there's so many scenarios that can happen. It's awesome just to think about how, I love the draft. I mean, I really do. I think Veach, and the one thing I do know, everybody that I know that's in his circle, he gets like giddy. He's like a little kid when it comes. It's like he's a kid in a candy store when it comes to the draft, because he's so damn good at it. He's been drafting phenomenal players for a long time. And again, 4-year GM, 4-year straight AFC championship games, and 2 Super Bowls. So I'm not complaining. And
I wonder sometimes if down the line, maybe a few years from now, this isn't the point where we look back and say that really made the difference in our roster to be able to get back to the Super Bowl. Because this is the point right now where we're running low on cap space, or at least we were, and this is really a transition point for our offense and even our defense with so many new players coming in. It's going to be a really important draft, which is I think people are looking over maybe the fact that, some of these players are rookies, but they're going to come in and they're going to start no matter what. I mean, we have positions to fill and we have holes that needs filled, and down the line, these guys are going to be starters for years to come. And then the question I had after that was, if the Chiefs don't make a trade for a wide receiver such as a Terry McLaurin, and maybe they don't get a high round draft pick, do you think it's still a possibility that we would be able to get him afterwards? And do you think it's something that needs to happen during the draft?
Oh, if they don't get Terry, I mean, we looked at this, Keen. There are several day 2 wide receivers that would be fun, that could work in our offense, letting them kind of work behind the scenes. A couple that come to mind. I'll just say one for right now. But Jahad Dotson could be. I'll give one more. Not Christian Kirk.
Christian Watson.
Yeah, Christian Watson from North Dakota State. So I mean, there are some possible weapons where we could see guys being there, and the Chiefs don't have to get collateral from the draft. But hey, I would like Terry. Maybe this be a situation where he plays there this year, and he ends up leaving in free agency. I mean, that could happen as well, because I don't see him staying unless he really wants to
sit out either. I mean, he doesn't want to stay, but
he's not going to workouts. But I mean, I don't blame him. He deserves everything he's asking for.
Yeah, I don't think he's a guy that's going to hold out per se. Towards the he may not be going to workouts, but it is what it is. A lot of guys
are voluntary.
Yeah, they're voluntary. So, and I know right now he normally would have gone, but this may be his little way of saying, hey man, please let me out, and I know that, again, we've talked about this. There's 3 teams that Chiefs have been working, 2 for sure, and one that they've had some conversations with over the last 2.5 months that we've talked about on the podcast and on Spaces. It was Washington, Minnesota, and the Giants. So as far as answering your question, Keaton, hell yes. I mean, if the Chiefs are able to grab a couple of players that maybe Washington wants and work out well for them, that could be, a 2-for-1 and get that deal done, and maybe give them a 6th round or 5th round pick next year or something crazy just to get rid of them. And, then we don't have to give up, a bunch of draft capital. We can trade, player for player and 2 players for 1. I mean, we tried that with Chicago. We were going to give up 2 players and a draft pick for Allen Robinson. And that didn't work out because of really, it wasn't anything other than the fact that the ownership didn't have that much trust in Nagy at the time. But it's you got to have the juice if you're trying to pull it, and he didn't have that juice. But
I believe there was another player they were looking at trading to, possibly a lineman. I don't remember if it was Drawn Payne or if it was Sweat. It was one of the 2 that they were listening to calls in. So that also may be something to watch moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, don't be surprised. I said this before, put it on Twitter. Don't be surprised if you see one more key player for the Chiefs get traded. I'm not going to say who it is. I really don't want to see it happen. I think you guys know who I'm talking about, but if it happens, it's not going to kill me, but it has been definitely a topic, and he has been shopped. So if it happens, it happens, but the only reason I say that it may happen is because Veach has a plan. He would never do it if he didn't. So right now I think we're sitting at $34 million in cap space, if I'm not mistaken. I think
we're like at 15, but I mean, I
it's at 14, I believe.
Is it now 14?
I can look on over the cap, but after we signed all those players,
we went up to 34 though. We were up to 34 after the Tyreek deal, and we signed some players and did some things, but we were down.
So that probably got cut in half.
Yeah, I'd say probably cut in half somewhere.
We're over the cap. We're at actually 18 million now, which is a lot more than I actually thought. And
that's right. That's actually, because I remember because we were at 20 and now we just signed Gordon, and there was one other player that we signed, and that dropped us down a little bit. But yeah, because we started off at 34 after that. And then yeah, that makes sense. We have to save, you know, we don't have to save as much this year, of course, for the draft as we normally would, but we still need to keep about $7-8 million sitting around for the draft just to be safe. You hear guys say, "Oh, you only need 3 million for the draft." That's
no,
not
you
true.
need about 10.
You need
I would
about
go
10.
on with 10.
Yeah, if you're going to do it right, you need about $10 million sitting there going, "Okay, this is what we're going to need. This is what we're going to use just in case." You may not use it all, but hey, you may use it all. So
And for the undrafted guys, you're
and for your
going to get the best undrafted guys if you have the most money. And you've seen in years past the teams willing to spend a little bit more on those undrafted guys end up getting steals.
Yep, every time. So, but with that being said, I don't know. You guys got anything else? I mean, you got any more topics?
The only thing I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit is just what do you think is the most likely scenario? We talked a lot of scenarios. What do you think, if you had to put money on it, would be the most likely scenario of what's going to happen tomorrow? Will we trade for a wide receiver that's pre-existing? Will we wait and stay with our picks? Will we trade up for a wide receiver or someone else? What do you guys think?
I think they're going to trade up. Not will it be for a wide? I think they're going to trade up if they can get the wide receiver they want that they know is going to fall to them. Otherwise, they're going to trade up and get a top defensive player if they are available. Because the way you look at it, they're not going to have all 12 picks. So I have a feeling with those picks, I have a feeling Beach in the first day is going to move up probably once in the draft. In the coming days after that, he's probably going to move up 2 or 3 more times, pushing maybe into 4. That'd be absurd, but 2 or 3 more times just to kind of get the players he wants because he has the capital to do it.
I agree. I think if I actually like the idea of trading up for a defensive player more than I do a wide receiver. The only reason I say that is because it's more of a position of need with what we already have and the fact that we can go out and pull somebody in like a Terry that can be an immediate impact. And then also he's young enough to where we got 3, 4, 5 good years with him if we can keep the money low. So, or the money right, not low, but right. So it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they traded up for a really good defensive player. Similar to, the kid's going to, I think he's going to what's he going in this? I think he's going to the 6th round. Is it 6th or 10th? Let me look really quick. I can't think of it right now.
What player are you looking for?
Is a defensive player. Damn, why can't I see it? My brain's not working. I'm so tired right now.
You know what position it was?
Thibodeau. Sorry.
Okay.
I would kill to have a Thibodeau. I wouldn't. That wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. I would actually, and also, again, the guy I brought up earlier, as far as the CB is concerned, at 23, Andrew Booth. Exactly. I think he'd fit very well in our system. And
I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, I really like Andrew Booth, and I think if we're going to move up a little bit and not go for a wide receiver, I would love to see him go for a defensive player like Booth or Thibodeau and bring him in, impact players, day one starters, get that defense on track. Because here's the thing, our offense is always going to be dynamic because we have such a dynamic offensive coach. We've got Nagy back that everybody loves. And you've got, between Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, and Patrick Mahomes, it's really going to be hard to not be a dynamic offense. We've been dynamic without certain players on our field. When we were dynamic when we didn't have Travis and Hill on the field at the exact same time. So I'm not so concerned with bringing in, a first round wide receiver as I am building the defense to get to that top 10, top 15 position, consistent top 10, top 15. I would love to say consistently top 10, but if you really want to look at it, if you think about it from this perspective, and this last thing I'll say about it, Tom Brady is nowhere near nowhere near the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is. I'm sorry, but he's just not. He doesn't have the athleticism. He doesn't have the arm strength, and he really didn't have the accuracy during his entire career. His yardage was a lot less than Mahomes, and he went to, 10 Super Bowls now?
He had one of the greatest defenses, the greatest coach.
There you go.
Great supporting cast.
You hit the number right on the head, the defense. The 3 times that he lost or didn't, and the times that he didn't make a Super Bowl, he didn't have at least a top 10 defense. They were usually top 5, top 10 every single year.
And he won a Super Bowl and he scored 10 points. I mean, that's
exactly. So that tells you a whole lot about, regardless if this is an air attack game or not, you have to have a defense that's going to be able to control the other side of the field. And we've had that a little bit last year, and for about an 8-game stretch that worked out really well. Stubbornness and a little bit of issues, caused that to fall apart at the beginning. And then, I don't know what the hell Spags was thinking at the end of the season, but this is now where we've got guys that are not only seasoned a year or two, but we're bringing in guys that can also be day one starters. And since we're basically blowing up the defense, we need to fill those positions with guys that can actually play the game. And that's just all. If we had that, the offense we have right now, if we didn't sign another offensive player, we'd be just as dynamic, if not more, as we were last year on offense, as long as we've got a defense that can support them. So
I agree. Did you want to do possibly another spaces tomorrow after the draft, or maybe the next day before the second round? Because I think I'd like to talk about the players if we get or trade up or trade back.
Yeah.
Because I think we were planning on doing one. Were JP? Were we planning on doing one
during the draft? During it, yeah.
Probably beforehand too.
Yeah.
I think I might be watching with my family. I'm not gonna lie, but I will definitely join you guys if you wanted to do one the day after.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, we're definitely going to be doing a live. I think we already announced it on Twitter on the other spaces. We're definitely going to be doing live spaces during the draft. And I don't know how far we're going to get on Thursday, but if we even pick on Thursday, but
I can cover for you guys on the later rounds if you'd like.
I'll be on. We'll figure
it out. When I mean, we've all made sure that our schedules are free for the draft. So, especially me, because I was supposed to be there and I'm in Kansas City. So,
next year,
I'm definitely going. I will be in Kansas City next year, but I was supposed to be at this one. My wife said it today. She goes, I really feel horrible for you. And I said, why is that? And she goes, because you're not going to this draft. And she goes, you had, you were going to be right there, with everybody. And I said, it's okay. I said, things happen. She goes, but it seems like it happens to you a lot. You were supposed to go to the Super Bowl in 2019 and it didn't happen because of my dad. Now you're not going to the draft this year because of your dad and your sister. And I said, yeah. I said, well, it's okay. I mean, if the one thing that Caleb knows about me and most people is, and you, Keaton's somewhat new to our group. I am more family oriented than I ever will. I've done enough stuff in football in my life that I can sit back and go, okay. Now the Super Bowl was a little bit of a sting. I'm not going to lie. I am not going to lie about that. To get to go to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and hang out for a week in Miami with those guys and then hang out with the media, that would have been a dream come true, but my family came first. And the guilt factor gets me every time. And it always goes back to one person. And Caleb, who is that person? Who is the person that brings the guilt to me that I can't leave if I know they're sick?
DT.
Yep. Because I wasn't there when he died and I was supposed to be.
And plus, you had a lot of family members. You said that's happened the same way. So.
Yeah. So I the guilt gets to me, and I just can't do it. I don't know. It's just, I can't. So if, like right now, my dad, I mean, for anybody that knows, my dad's 95 years old and he gets around really well. But he needs help and my sister's not ever going to be there to help him again. So I'm taking him home with me and, I'm fine with that, but it's not going to be for at least a minimum of another week. So I'll be here a month, so, with that being said, it's okay. I'll enjoy it with you guys and we'll have a blast on Spaces with all the fans. It just is what it is. I cherish the times that we have together just as much as I do things that, I could have done that maybe other people would have thought would have been better, but you have to take the good with the bad. I will say though, the Super Bowl did sting. I was lucky. Caleb seen it. They sent me a bunch of, they sent me all the stuff that they were wearing on the field. So I got the hat. In fact, I'm wearing the hat right now. I got the jacket. I got the hoodie. I got all this stuff that they sent me from Miami. And I was like so excited when I didn't even know what it was when it showed up. I had no clue. And then I opened the box and it was all the stuff that they were wearing in Miami. And I was very grateful for that. So, my buddies down there said, damn, he couldn't come. So we're at least going to send him some gear and they hooked me up. So, hey man,
we're going to turn up at the draft next year.
Hell yeah.
We'll be there.
Yes. I mean, we definitely will be at the draft next year. So, and we'll probably be doing a lot more than just spectating. So, with that being said, it's getting late, guys, and I know everybody's probably tired. So we will wrap this one up. And again, I appreciate everything you guys did for this draft and Caleb and Keaton. And we're going to be talking to you guys through Spaces. So do not forget, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we are going to be on Spaces, doing live Spaces. So everybody join in. It's going to be a blast. We can compare, mock drafts with everything that we've done and versus other people and just have a good old time doing it and cheer and be happy with whoever we get. So with that being said, I think that's it. If you guys have anything else, we can wrap this one up.
The only thing I think we're good. The only thing I would just say is thank you guys for continuing to listen. Thank you, Keaton, for helping with the draft. Thank you everybody for continuing to listening. Just so continue to check us out. But thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Definitely. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity because before this, I was just a kid watching the drafts, predicting players would go. And I was just like, man, I would love to get this out there. So I thank you guys for having me on here and giving me the opportunity to come on Chiefs Focus.
No problem.
We appreciate it, man. You stepped up when I needed you the most.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. I mean, you stepped up when, we we were in a spot that it was like, we needed some help and you were there and you did it. And that shows a lot of heart and a lot of determination. And that's what we love about our group is that, if one's out for some reason, the other one steps in and we got each other's back. So just keep listening, follow the website. It's www.chiefsfocus.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Check out our Facebook page. Follow that. Make sure you follow the show, Chiefs Focus First and 10. We're on every single platform out there, from iHeartRadio to Amazon Music. We're everywhere. So check us out, and we will talk to you on Thursday. Peace out, everybody.
Thank you all.
See you next time, guys.